change and build and whatnot over.
Well, and we should talk
appearances
about
later on.
Well, you bring a
ahead.
great point up, right? Which is the manipulation of good ideas by bad actors, right? And men's rights activism is one of the best uses of that. I wouldn't call myself a men's rights activist because people would say, "Oh, you're associated with Paul Elam, etc." But I don't let people define that term for me. If I'm having a conversation where I can talk for more than 10 seconds instead of, I wouldn't write men's rights activist in my Twitter bio because someone would just go, "Oh, I understand that to mean," and not ask about it and dismiss me out of hand. But if I can talk about it, if someone says, "Hey, are you a men's rights activist?" I say, absolutely.
So
let's talk
so
about
how
the
is that
problem
how is that sort of mentality any different from people who say, "I don't want to label myself a social justice warrior," because of how people will take that and dismiss it offhand?
That's why I totally understand people who would say, "Hey, I don't want to label myself a social justice warrior," or if you don't want to use the term safe space, even though you understand the real definition, or trigger warning or something like that. An example I use all the time is when I'm speaking to people who I don't know I'm going to win over, instead of the word privileged, I use lucky. I have never had a white guy scream in my face because I've used the word lucky. I have had white guys scream in my face because I've used the word privilege. So it's about walking that balance and knowing your audience, right? Similarly, I believe in men's rights activism a tremendous amount. I think circumcision is something that needs to be dealt with. The problem of male rape is something that needs to be dealt with. High rates of male suicide. It is when bad actors like Paul Elam, who I just used an example, right? It's when bad actors like Paul Elam use good causes to distract from other good causes, right? They sort of use the opposite. We're talking about intersectionality before. They use the opposite of intersectionality because they're not really wanting to talk about the problem of rape among men. They don't really want to talk about problems about suicide statistics. What they want to do is they're using their activism to shut up other activists. And that's the difference, I think, between true crusaders. And you can see there are really amazing men's rights activists about that. And the truth is, in an intersectional mindset, going back to intersectionality, men's rights activism and feminism are intersectional. Why am I a feminist? Because I believe in men and women's rights, right? Feminism is not about female superiority, right? It is about promoting equality, right? And so,
I mean, so how do you respond to? It depends on the feminist, right? I mean, how do you respond to the sort of more radicalized? All men are misogynists, and all white people are racist by default, and it doesn't matter if you actually have any opinion on the topic. This is how we label you, and how do you respond to those, that sort of subsect?
Let me address that real quick. Eli, let me address that. Because I think that David makes a really great point that I was going to get to. You're discussing things more like egalitarianism, which I think any rational person would agree with, right? But there is a narrative out there. There are, and by the way, we have had MRA, we've had MGTOW, Dean Esme was a big leader in that. He's a radicalized piece of shit, right? But there are people that say, we should never give women the right to vote. That's not a rational position, right? Or men are all the same type of rapist pieces of shit. Or my favorite is that, "Oh, you're a heterosexual cis white male. You should have no opinion on these topics. You're not allowed to speak against racism. You're not allowed to," as you pointed out earlier, if you're not a Jew, you can't talk about the Holocaust. Well, I am Jewish, but that doesn't matter, right? People have conversations.
But you've also been called a Nazi, so.
Exactly. There's narrative, and I love the way you put this, Eli, by the way. Props to you. You had said that intersectionality is very much the opposite of those things, and that you should be having these discussions regardless of your position in life. And I do believe white privilege is a thing. I get shit for that, but I can actually make a good argument for that. But when I've been told, for example, that I can't, as a white heterosexual cisgender male, talk about things like gender non-binary or things of that nature, it's a little discouraging, because I think that's a very opposite message than people like yourself that have obviously been well researched on this. I got to admit, you're the most articulate, informative person I've seen to date on feminism, maybe with obviously some exceptions like Brittany and Emerez, who's both equally as articulate as you. But it's rare. It is very, very rare. Because we deal with more radical.
To be fair, I mean, I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little bit by pushing on the buttons that I hear pushed the most often, right?
No, and I agree that it's fair. And the answer that I would give is I find it a responsibility to represent these ideas with intellectual honesty, just as I am intellectually responsible, right? Joel Osteen has millions more followers and listeners. Wow, I hurt Dave's feelings. I'm so sorry, Dave. Just kidding.
He went to a safe space. Dave had to go to a safe space.
It ran up. No, but
so
Joel Osteen. Right. Joel Osteen has millions more followers than me, and yet he defines atheist as theist, secret theist who hates God, right? Similarly,
God, I hate that.
Though there are bad actors in my community, I represent those ideas as the way they're defined. I represent those ideas as they're defined within academia. I represent them with subtlety and nuance, and I don't let the bad actors scare me away from those ideas because they're incredibly important, and we live in a time where we are trying to be tricked away from those ideas, right? Who's trying to convince us not to be feminist? Who's trying to convince us not to be racist? Or who's trying to convince us that, anti-racist movements are the real racist ones, that Colin Kaepernick is a big deal, that this, that, and the other thing? Who's doing this? Right-wing think tanks, right? I refuse to be manipulated by those bad actors on the right while they do real demonstrable things. And to sort of put the cap of why I'm willing to sway so much in my definition and stick so solidly to the academic definitions, even though there are bad actors who disprove me all the time, right? Even though there are far more bad actors within any group you'd like to get, right? There are far more bad actor atheists than there are good actor atheists. If you randomly put all the atheists in a bag and pulled one out, the chance that atheist is philosophically grounded in his atheism is slim to none. We were talking about this before we started, right? Well, when you say that you're philosophical...
Do you think I'm grounded in my perspective from our conversation?
Yeah, because you're a philosophical agnostic, right? But if you pull a random atheist out of the bag and you say, I'm a philosophical agnostic, they're going to go, wrong, right? Because they're not a Bertrand Russell atheist. They're a Sam Harris atheist. And look, there's a lot to be said for the importance of mainstreaming good ideas, right? But the truth of the matter is that if you don't come to atheism from a philosophical background, you probably don't have a lot of counter arguments to the philosophical arguments of atheism, right? It doesn't mean that you won't practically be able to disprove theism.
So when you brought up...
that's very much correct. I think that's very much correct. I like the fact that you put it forth as there's an academic understanding of these things, right, in the literature. And I try to explain to people, you mentioned Russell, and most people have not even read anything like, am I an atheist or am I agnostic? And I like Sam Harris's approach for certain things, like his objective morality, but this new atheism movement, I understand, is to promote the normativity of atheism. I get that. But at the same time, I think they're doing a disservice. I think they shoot themselves in the foot by discounting the fact that in philosophy, in the literature, overwhelming, of course, atheism is an actual belief. It is the rejection of theism, such that it is the promotion of the idea that there are no gods. That is what it is in philosophy. There's no really argument to be had there. Now, whether you accept that definition or not, that's up to you. I mean, again, this goes back to what do you want to define yourself to be? If somebody is articulate and they know the concepts, they can call themselves a squirrel. I don't give a fuck, right? It is what they are trying to promote as an ideology and the reasons. I want to know what their reasoning is, not what they label themselves per se. So when somebody says something like, oh, well, Steve, as a philosophical agnostic, you have to be either theist or atheist, I automatically discount what they have to say because they're more focused on the labeling, which, by the way, they're wrong, than understanding what I mean by being somebody who's a philosophical agnostic, because they're not listening at that point. They're more focused on the terminology, and I find that to be counterproductive.
And this is the problem with pop anything. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes,
I was
exactly.
going to say, you mentioned like right-wing actors kind of like pushing for the negative message and kind of thing. But how do you feel about some of these situations that are cropping up where that's specifically happening? We have like right-wing people digging up dirt on people in the left wing from decades past kind of thing, and then kind of using their commitment to not have bad actors in there to force people out, or like sort of the jury by social media, like with, I mean, obviously there's people who have been dirtbags and have been like caught being dirtbags and, whatever. Something needs to be done about that for sure. Well, like say people like James Gunn, who was fired from Disney doing the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff because he had some jokes that were probably in bad taste, to be fair. But I mean, 10 years ago, bad tweet on Twitter, right-wing people dig this up, put it out in the public, and then say, now you need to fire this guy, right? Like, how do you feel about sort of that? reactive.
Personally, I disagree with it, but Disney's got a brand to watch, right? Disney's got a multi-billion with a B dollar brand to watch, right? So the simple matter of, for you and me, right? If we knew our buddy had made a bad joke on Twitter, and trust me, I got a public Facebook, and there are some bad jokes on baby Eli's Facebook from a few years ago, right? And on the last week's show, right? But like, the simple fact of the matter
Broadway
is,
Disney dream will never happen now.
we might
Disney on Ice.
Right, exactly. We might disagree with Disney's choice, but Disney is making a choice as a brand about who they want to represent them. You know, when everyone was getting so upset about the James Gunn thing, I was like, yeah, man, they make people share underwear on their cruise ships. Like, you have no idea how much Disney controls the people who work for them. And that's because they are highly oiled. Yeah, no, it's true. I have friends who have.
True. No, I know. You think people are laughing at that, but what he just said, actually, the costumes are very, very formal. I mean, you literally take off everything you're wearing, you give it to somebody else when they're wearing your costume, and it's bizarre.
Everything you're wearing.
Everything. And you can't break character. You can't take off your helmet because you might scare the kids. A whole bunch of rules. But by the way, somebody sent me this, and this is confirmation of what you were saying earlier, both of you, about Canada. You are right, it is legal. I actually have physical evidence of this. Dave, can you show that real quick? So there you go. I mean, actual evidence in Canadian. It is legal to smoke marijuana in Canada. This is clear evidentialism right here.
Oh, that's so close to where I live. I just need to jump outside in my I need to jump up and down in my backyard a little bit. Yeah, exactly.
By the way, that's just David McGinnis cloud only. That's just when he lit up that day. This is what happened.
Right? Yeah. I think that we got another picture. Speaking of like interesting things that you might find funny, Steve. This one's, I think, of Eli that we can probably pull up. Maybe he could tell us the story behind it.
Oh, all right. So you'll recommend
this is too creepy even for me.
You'll recommend the gentleman on the left.
Can we get demonetized for this video? This is scary. This might like scare small children.
How does that play into informed consent, Eli?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The look on his face, he's not happy.
Yeah, so I allegedly, and this, I don't know who started this terrible rumor about me, but I allegedly licked Ray Comfort at Reason Rally. I don't know who started spreading that rumor, but it's very upsetting. And this photo is not of me about to lick him in exactly 2 seconds. So whoever started that rumor of me licking Ray Comfort, Reason Rally, it's hurtful to me, hurtful to my future generations, and it definitely did not happen. So yeah.
Did he, wait, does he rumor, I'm not saying he did or didn't. No, banana. That's what I wanted. Did he taste like banana?
Oh, banana.
Oh. Yeah, was it kiwi or banana? Yeah.
My question is, like, would it have been social justice if you had licked him? That's the question.
Yeah. The question is, the answer is fear. He tastes like fear.
He tastes like, well, yeah, because I think Ray Comfort is one of those people that's completely full of shit. I think he's one of those people that actually knows he's so full of shit he doesn't care, because he just is not an honest person, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've watched so many of Ray's movies, and when you watch a lot of someone's content, they communicate things without telling you. I think Ray, I don't think he's honest. I think he has shut off certain parts of the intellectual conversation to himself. I think Ray came up against the question that I think we all come up against, which is that you're going to die and you're going to be forgotten. And you're going to be dead in the ground. There's no heaven. There's no God. There's no angels, all that stuff. No Christian God, at least as we define it, right? When you die, you're dead. And I think that was too terrifying for him to bear. And the message that I get, having watched, again, dozens of his movies at this point, is not of a person who philosophically believes one idea, but of someone who is terrified to believe another.
Terrified of the consequences. Yeah. Well, Ken Hovind does the same thing, right? How many times have we had these discussions or debates with Kent? And almost inevitably toward the end, at some point, he's going to throw into that, well, Steve, you know that you're going to eventually die, and you're going to meet God, and you're going to have to justify it. And I'm like, Ken, I don't believe the shit that you believe in because you're a commensurate liar. That's all you do is fucking lie. You've done it for decades. I've sat there and explained to you shit for ages that you've said you're going to correct, Ken.